Yappie.
What's
yappie-ish? Not a yappie.
I'm only dressed as a yappie.
You look like a yappie.
I do. I look more like a yappie, but I'm only dressed as one.
If you're yappie and you know it, clap your hands.
Yo, what's going on, everybody? Andrew from the Fung Bros, David from the Fung Bros, and we got our producer Dina here today. Asian identity, we love to talk about it. And one of the major Asian identities that has been talked about, especially in the internet age, is yappie. It's the yappie identity.
Young Asian professional, YAP.
We made a video about it years back. We talked about it with Aquafina, and then Wong Fu obviously did their whole series, which I think really blew it out of the water. The reason why we're making it is because, especially when me and David, we go visit college campuses and we do a show and there's a Q&A section, a lot of students there who are probably about to become yappies or take that path, they always ask, should I become a yappie? I have dreams I want to pursue. Should I just not pursue the yappie life and do that? Or should I just take the more secure path and become a yappie?
The key is that you have stable income, could stay in that job for a really long time.
You work for a corporation.
You work for
in a major metropolitan center. Well, you basically became some form of a model minority, right? Like some sort of form of like, you know, you hit the checklist, you got good grades in school, never got arrested, stayed out of trouble with the law. Just a proper good Asian kid.
We're trying to answer the question on whether you should quit your yappie path or not.
Adina, you used to be a yappie. Andrew,
I look like a yappie.
I went to business school. You did too.
We all
business school is really yappie.
Super. They call it B school. I would say B school and law school are the most yappie schools, and then medical, and then engineering. So here are 10 things you need to think about before quitting your yappie path. Trust me, we are not biased in this because we know a lot of yappies. We were maybe at one point in our lives onto a yappie path. We chose not to do it. So we've seen the benefits, the drawbacks of both lives.
All right, first and foremost, what should you be thinking about? What new life are you pursuing?
Okay.
If you're leaving your yappie path,
All right, you guys, listen closely. You just got to know what type of life you want to live.
So what are the things that people normally leave their yappie life to do?
Oftentimes people leave their yappie path to go into entertainment, become artists, or go into like restaurant, F&B, or they just travel and like become a backpacker. You probably want an image of what kind of world you want to be in because you kind of know what the yappie world is going to be like. There's going to be stable paychecks, you're going to see a bunch of other people.
Happy
hour, you're going to get off at probably a certain time unless you're in consulting, you might burn out, but you're going to travel a lot. You know the type of people that you're going to meet and have access to. Obviously, if you join another path, there are no guarantees.
Well, like in a big company, I remember one thing that my friends always who became yappies would tell me about is the mentor tree. Like most big companies have assigned you a mentor that you relate to do career development, so you know you stay at that company. In entertainment, you guys, or creative fields, there is no guarantee you will get a mentor.
Nope.
Like you might just be on your own. There's no guarantee that Steven Spielberg gonna take you underneath his wing like he did John M. Chu, you know?
If you enter an entrepreneurial field like the ones that we just mentioned, to be honest, there is less structure. There are less bosses, there are less managers, there's less mentors, there's even
There
less...
might not even be a company organizational flowchart.
Exactly, there's less employees.
When I'm in Asia, I will occasionally bump into Asian guys on vacation that are yappies, and I'm like, you are acting totally different from how you do.
They're like, yes!
Melvin Lee, like you do not act like this when you're in SF, LA, or New York. You are wilding out in Asia, bro.
So the next thing Melvin Lee should think about if he thinks he might want to quit the yappie life is opportunity cost.
Opportunity cost is what are you giving up to?
Or let's say you're an entrepreneur and you spend a day at Disneyland that has nothing to do with your business, potentially could have spent that day working on your business. That's your opportunity cost.
So Disneyland costs $100, but the opportunity cost is how much you
Could've-
would have made that day.
What if you had done something for your business that would have made you $1,000?
So what were you guys giving up?
We definitely apply to a lot of B school internships half-heartedly in the summers. Everybody has a whole structure. Okay, the really ambitious people, they're already doing internships their freshman year, but then most are doing the sophomore year. Hopefully your senior year, you do an internship at a place that offers you a full-time, and like, I didn't do any of that. Basically, to get into anything prestigious, whether that's like a good college or a good job after college, there's like a laundry list of things that are red, and you have to go tick these things off to make sure they're green to put you in the zone where you have a good chance. Me and Andrews was like 20% full green, and we were not making an effort on the other 80%. Me and Andrews was too busy hosting shows, performing stand-up comedy. If you look at the checklist and go, nope, that is the indicator. You should not go into that field because you do not want to attack that checklist. Adina, what kept you motivated to check all the long list that you needed to get a VC, you know, like a good job after you graduated?
So I never really wanted to be a yappie. I've always wanted to found my own company, like for as long as I can remember. But I was really afraid of not having a plan B. I wanted to check all those boxes, so just in case I could feed myself.
Was it a pain in the to check boxes you didn't want to check?
Yeah, for sure.
Number 3, when you're contemplating as an Asian kid whether or not you should be a yappie, you have to understand how risk adverse are you on a scale of 1 to 5. The reason that I didn't become a yappie is my fear level is like 2.
Coming out of B school, 3.
Okay, what about now?
Yeah, 2. Where would you put most Asians?
3 and up. I would say 3 and up.
Easily 4, I think. 4 is the average. I understand why fear or caution or risk adversity, it's a very deep part of, 1, I do think ancient Asian culture, Confucian culture. Number 2, I do think it is also a deep-rooted part of the immigrant experience.
I mean, I think for a lot of Asian immigrants, it's like, come here and just be secure. Like, even if you're scared, who cares? Like, just get the thing done, you know?
Survival.
Yeah, survive.
All right, the 4th thing. So what are you missing from your yappie life that you could have in another life?
And although this freelance entrepreneur life has many benefits, such as flexibility, I'm starting to really see the benefits of having the stable life.
No, put the jacket
Yeah.
on. Put the jacket on.
No, the yappie is
Just put the jacket on.
This is a yap. This is still. This is a cool yappie jacket.
No,
This is a yappie on the weekend jacket.
I think that is a yappie that used to break dance jacket.
I think for a lot of people, especially Asian people, they don't meet that many non-yappies. They're more used to meeting yappies. So when they meet a non-yappie, they're like, oh,
So it's
what's this
unique.
about? Yeah.
Woo.
Also, I do think depending on, especially if you're in entertainment or founder of a company, your earning ceiling is like, there is no ceiling potentially.
Another thing is like having nobody to blame. So I used to work at Verizon in college. I hated the soap in the bathroom. But every time I would bring my own soap, everybody would like use it or steal it. Or my manager would be like, what are you bringing your own soap in here if a company already pays for this pink soap?
You throwing off the system, Fung?
Yeah, and I was always like, yo, but this pink soap is super harsh on my hands. Now when you run your own camp and you run your own office, you can just have the most luxurious soap all you want because you're gonna pay for it.
The fact that you were bringing in your own soap was already you breaking yappie frame.
Yeah, people were like, oh, what are you doing, spending your own money?
The next thing you should consider if you want to quit your yappie life is how does ambition factor into it? What is your personal level of ambition and how will that manifest in your non-yappie
All right,
life?
theoretically, outside of the corporate world, there theoretically should be a higher ceiling. So,
And if you are really ambitious, where do you
if
belong?
you're really, really, really ambitious, you gotta start your own company. The way the tax system is and how easy it is to start a business here, there's not very many other places on earth where it's nearly as easy with the labor laws and things like that.
I think a lot of super ambitious yappies don't stay yappies for that long. But they might go off after working hard in the corporate world for like 10 years. Then they start their own thing because you realize unless you're at the top of that ladder, you're gonna wanna go and do your own thing. Point 6.
Are you okay with losing the stability and structure of a yappie life?
I think that if you're the type likes to wake up on a certain time, have things to do, have a checklist given to you, gotta go the yappie route. But taking this entrepreneurial route, I will tell you, you come up with your own times to wake up.
Yeah.
You structure your own life. You structure your own art, your own creations. You gotta put out yourselves. When do you network? You gotta make all those decisions. We're entrepreneurs, whether you work in restaurants, starting a company, doing entertainment, and you're free on a Tuesday, and you would like to go out and maybe be at an Asian themed bar with other Asian people. That's like something you want to do on a Tuesday night. Guess what? There is no such thing as a Tuesday night Asian bar. There's no other Asians that would want to spend time on a Tuesday night because they all got work the next day.
Me and Andrew will end up doing like talks on Sunday with their school on Monday, and there's no after party. We got the.
No,
we
it
got
wraps
the-
up super quick.
Q&A moment pictures. Everybody,
Everybody go back to studying for their
hurry
midterms.
and get tucked in and get locked in for Monday office hours. But if you say I stayed in the immigrant kid box, staying safe because that's where all my cousins and all my friends that grew up with are, that's actually a pretty legit answer. And you'll be on the same life cycle as everybody.
The shorter answer to this is when you take the non-yappy route and you take the entrepreneurial route, there's no guarantee you're gonna make as much as if you took the yappy route. There are really high highs and really low lows, and when you're in that low, your mission statement is gonna keep you going. So that's why we're saying you have to value the impact of what you do, because it's not always gonna monetarily or lifestyle even pay off or make sense.
In your professional career, you may have dips or plateaus.
Oh,
Or if you get laid off, that's a dip.
But they'll be quite shallow. in the entrepreneurial lifestyle, the dips could come quite often and be very high and very low. And not everybody mentally ready for that roller coasters.
Yeah.
So that
It's
brings
hard
me to the next thing, which is that some of your friends are gonna be lukewarm on your success.
Yes.
I hang out with some really creative Asians that have like tattoos and maybe just like are really un-Asian. And they sometimes feel that way about yappies the way the aggressive yappies feel about them. Whereas me and Andrew were kind of in the middle because our sisters are yappy. They're both important. I value you with the crazy hair, fashion, and tattoos. And I value the guy who's super, yeah, sure. The yappy guy or the yappy girl is way more conventional and like stereotypical and boring, for sure.
Conventional is not always a con.
Well, I just think you have to be prepared that some of your friends might react in a way that you don't expect.
And they might not even know they're doing it.
Yeah, competitiveness leads to jealousy. Jealousy leads to unhappiness. Unhappiness leads to evil. Most of us come from immigrant families, and at the end of the day, you're just trying to survive and make a good life for yourself. And being a yappy is one of the ways to do it.
Well, speaking of this interestingness piece, right? Like, there are non-yappy jobs that yappies value and find interesting, like running a high-end yappy restaurant.
Sure.
And then there are jobs that are a little more off the wall.
Sometimes I see yappy Asians try to break free from being a yappy, but they pick like a yappy adjacent career, like being a high-end organic chef or like yoga teacher or like even being an app developer. You can say you're an entrepreneur, but it's totally like you're a yappy. I mean, you can totally hang out with your yappy friends.
No, it's not so far off the yappy trail.
So just consider how far off the yappy trail
Yeah.
you're going. And if you've got a huge circle of yappy friends and that's important to you, that's something to consider.
I remember
how far off
we
the
met,
path.
we know Jeff Staple, and he was saying that his yappy friends had a hard time valuing what he does. He said that the younger yappies, they would value him because he's a streetwear designer, but the older ones couldn't. If you're a 20-year-old yappy, even if you're gonna work at PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers, you probably still threw on some Off-Whites, Air Force Ones at some point now. So it goes to show you that the yappies like have to respect people outside of their bubble now.
Well, I think especially by consumption, right? Like if a yappy still goes to concerts, if they still consume fashion brands, then they're gonna respect people who still work in those fashion brands or the entertainment industry.
So you guys actually aren't that far off the yappy path. Like, not as far off as you could be, right? Like, you
No,
guys could be
I'm not like the complete opposite. There's jobs that are way more
Less.
far from
Well,
the yappy
especially
world.
like the way for channels like Pretty Family Friendly and stuff like that. That's pretty yappy.
I mean, we still work with a lot of brands, and that is like, that's using our B school kind of skills involved in that. We have friends who are in YouTube who are less business minded than us.
They hate dealing with
Yes, they hate it so much, or
it.
it's
They
so
need,
hard for them.
they need a handler.
Yeah, so for sure we have some yappy skills that we actually use in our everyday business today.
Yeah. And I think that just maybe is an indicator of how deep within the yappy path maybe we were born into. Let me tell you this thing about life, man. That apple can roll far from the tree, but it can't roll that far. Like, you could be an apple that rolls abnormally far, and you'll still be within like the line of sight of the tree. Maybe if the tree,
near a river.
is near a river or on a hill.
Hill.
How often are there apples? Do you find an apple and you don't see the tree?
Really?
I don't know. I haven't been apple picking, but I'm just assuming that you can find the tree within the line of sight.
And you do see some people, I will say, that they have so much self-driven willpower as that apple, that they end up just rolling and rolling and rolling and rolling, and they got bumps and bruises from rolling so much over the rocks and whatnot. But they get out of the line of the sight of the tree. Me and Andrew, not those apples.
Number 9, non-yappy lanes often take you out of technical fields where you could deliver quote-unquote hard value. Which is, I think, like when Asian parents telling their kids to become engineers or doctors or lawyers, what they're saying is not like, I don't want you to have a fun life. What they're saying is, the world is hard, and I want you to have hard technical skills where people can't take that away from you. Like, don't put yourself in a position to be judged subjectively. And non-yappy paths are often subjective.
It's super weird because it's like, I do understand why they say that. I think it's completely logical. They're basically saying if you enter a field where it's based off people liking you, like let's say for example, entertainment. A lot of entertainment is whether just people like you.
Yeah.
Your parents, especially when you're Asian, they tell you don't go into those fields because we're from Asia and we're here in the West and people might not like us. Despite them saying avoid those careers where being likable could be a factor, they never teach you to be more likable.
They don't know how. If they knew how, they would have done it in their own lives. Like, they don't.
But being likable is like not even a metric that fully tracks in Chinese culture. Specifically Chinese. I think that other Asians may or may not.
I think there was a time in their life them growing up, getting to where they needed to be, they didn't have to be likable. Most Asian parents,
especially from that era,
are not conventionally likable. You guys know what I'm trying to say. It was hard to say, but it's not like...
Well, we love our parents, but we know how hard it was for them to get their coworkers, to get other people around them to like them.
I mean, my dad was an engineer. He was trying to become a manager for so long, but he just didn't have, I don't want to say he wasn't likable, he just didn't have the people skills. And I don't blame them because they come from a different country. I mean, for them to have the people skills in America that are elite, that would have taken a lot of training.
They think in characters.
They think in a different language. They come from a different culture. They came from a different land. They look different. They come in a different economic situation. So of course, yeah, it makes sense that they're not gonna be like going golfing with the boss.
Right.
My dad was not marking it at the water cooler, okay? Dad was making a pot of tea while the guys were at the water cooler.
But I will say my dad knows he is where he's at work because he's super smart, really reliable, and super good at his
And he
job.
would not tell you that he was likable at work.
Oh,
in the cool way.
I mean, he knows he's not. This brings me to point number 10, our very last point, which is you have to think that moving the needle in society and culture is more important than having a fun and stable life.
If you become a yappie, there's a very low chance you will shift society.
You could have enormous impact in your personal life and in your family.
Yeah, you can
Well, that's
do
why
that.
you got to join that little nonprofit arm of your Fortune 100 company, because otherwise, to be honest, on your day-to-day, you're not necessarily even doing something that's good for the world.
Yeah, that's you can make a lot of money and then go start charities, or you can go join things like Apex for Youth over in New York and be like a mentor, but your job in itself is not.
So what needles are you guys trying to move?
Culture, society,
I think
open
people's
minds, spark discussion, discourse.
People's mindsets and their belief in themselves, especially when it comes to being Asian in a Western world. I mean, I want people to feel more confident and more comfortable around their culture.
What happened in your guys' lives that makes you think that you now value moving the needle over just having fun or having stability?
I think that for us at a young age, and I can probably speak for both of us, we both understood that there was so much in the world that could change and that we felt like we had the tools to do it.
I think a lot of it is like, I feel like you were affected by the needle, so you want to move the needle. And maybe you felt like affected in a bad way by the needle.
Yeah.
It's not always for sure this way, but if you are really bad at other things because you can't bring yourself to give maximum effort, that means that you should find the field that you can give maximum effort to. And that might be where you should stay. And we say maximum effort, not maximum enjoyment, because I know people who love music and they can't put their maximum effort into making music. You gotta follow your work more than following your interests. I really discourage people from running away from being a yappie because they don't want to be a stereotype.
Don't not become a yappie just for the sake of not becoming a yappie. Try it out on the weekends. Try your little passion because you're not sure. Like Richie, I will tell you this, kept at it throughout high school, hustling people, trading up. He was reselling. He was always getting the hottest gear, boom, boom, boom. So to see Richie run a channel like that and have his own brand now, guess what? I'm impressed, but I'm not surprised.
It just goes to show you that in a way you are who you are a lot earlier than you might think. And don't suddenly decide when you're older, oh, I'm gonna pivot. It might work for you, but chances are you had to have shown inclinations throughout your youth.
Because yappie is honestly like a good and meaningful life. You get to spend time with family, you get to spend time on hobbies and interests, you live in comfort,
With other
your
yappies.
parents are proud of you, right? Like, these are all good things.
My major takeaway is this. I think the older you get, the harder it is to change from being a yappie to a non-yappie or a non-yappie to a yappie. So let's say your life is like a snowball and you're rolling around the field. You know, as you get older, it gets bigger and bigger, right? You have more responsibilities, more money, your jobs. But guess what? To turn that snowball in a different direction, it's a lot harder. Just so you guys know, obviously, when you guys are younger, it's way easier to make pivots than when you're older.
When you're like a tiny snowball.
Yeah, I'm not saying, it's a tiny maneuverable snowball. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's way harder.
I think yappies live a nice life. Like, not just a nice life, I think they can live incredibly meaningful lives. The only additional variable that I would kind of press people to think about, is there something else happening maybe from a social or cultural level that wouldn't happen if you didn't take that action and make it happen?
It's not necessarily that the world needs you to have another career necessarily, but does the world need you to do something else maybe in your off time too?
My final takeaway for you guys, really think about why you want to do something. If you don't want to be a yappie, why don't you want to do it? Failing as a non-yappie could theoretically be way lower. And I do think, to be honest, that more people are going to need to fail. Some will be successful, some will fail. And whatever you do, just live with the result. Don't look at it as failure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just look at it like you needed to know.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for watching that video. I hope it was very helpful. Those are things that we just really felt like needed to be said. Shout out to Adina for being in this video and providing a lot of other great insight. In the comments below, let us know if you have thought about taking the yappie path. Why or why not? Maybe you're deep in the yappie path. Maybe you're a young kid and you're like, I just learned what a yappie is today. Let us know if you're thinking about that path, why or why not, in the comments below. I think this could really make for a really interesting comment section. Thank you. It's David, Andrew from the Fung Bros. That's Adina. And until next time, we out. Peace.
Not only that, you guys remember, as much as we're not yappies right now, and you used to be one, me and Ed are probably never really been full yappies. Being a yappie will make your parents happy.
He's trying to make it happen.
And you know I'm not a true yappie because of all my acne. Peace.